Welcome to episode 2 of my podcast with Melinda McDougall, our medical herbalist, and we are talking all things menopause. Now, Melinda, you covered some really great things in our first episode, and there's so many more questions that people are asking now. So this topic is going to be, what can we do about it? Talking a little bit more about HRT and the natural alternatives and lifestyle changes that we can all make in order to try and transition through this time of life, which, as we said in episode 1, can be something full of dread for people. But what we want to do and how we work together, Melinda, is to try and navigate people into a fearless state where they know that they've got these tools in their toolbox of herbs and foods and exercises and all sorts of things. So hopefully they can kind of get through it, pretty unscathed. And, as you said already, it's not, we're not taking this lightly. And we do understand that lots of women are suffering massively from symptoms. And some of my clients, one of the things that they say is, Denise, I just don't recognize myself anymore. I feel fearful, I feel anxious, I feel all of these things, and they just don't feel like themselves. So my first question to you, and we'll kind of cover that, how they get back to feeling themselves, but HRT, it's a massive subject, and it's such a divide. It's almost like Marmite. People love it and it's changed their life, or they don't want to go near it because they're very afraid of it. So talk a little bit about HRT. Is it safe? What are the side effects? Just, tell us what you know.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's great to be back here on your podcast, Denise, talking about the menopause. And look, I should say that, I'm a medical herbalist. I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe HRT, but I do make it my business to know about HRT because so many of my clients ask me about it, obviously, but I also work alongside HRT as well, and I do help support women who have decided to take HRT, and that's fine, and I think the really important thing to remember about HRT is that it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve everything, and it doesn't always work well for all women, but in other women it works really fantastically, and it does change their life. And I think with everything, whenever you go into the world of pharmaceutical medicine, you really have to weigh up the risks versus the benefits to you, every time you go into that world. And if you've got a good doctor, then they will take into account the risks and the benefits and help you come to a really sensible decision for you. HRT is really complicated, and I think this is why women are so confused, because the mixed messages, there's so many mixed messages out there, and there's also so many different types of HRT. There's about 50 different brands that you can be prescribed, and it's and quite often women are prescribed a certain form of HRT, but then it doesn't. They get side effects, so then they have to try other forms, and so it can be quite hit and miss until they get the right one. But just, very quickly to kind of summarize, at the moment, with the research that we have available, currently the safest form of HRT to take are the gels, the estrogen gel or the estrogen patch. And that's then combined with a micronized progesterone tablet, or progestogen, which is a synthetic form of progesterone, because they are the closest that we have, in a synthetic form, to a substance that mimics our own hormones. So they still have risks attached, but they are much safer than some of the older forms of HRT that were perhaps, prescribed about 10 years ago, or, well, actually they are still being prescribed on the NHS, which is a bit of an issue. But, the forms I've described are the safest ones, but there are side effects.
So we'll talk about the side effects in a second, but the ones that you're talking about, Melinda, are they are they natural? Are they, how would you describe them?
Well, they are derived from plant substances, so things like wild yams, and the estrogen is as close as you can possibly get to a sort of body or bioidentical form.
Yeah.
But it's like anything. I mean, aspirin is a synthesized form of
Yes.
willow bark, so it's not entirely natural, but it's about as close as we can get at the moment.
Yeah. So if somebody didn't want to go down the medical route necessarily, are there herbal alternatives?
Yeah, definitely, because a lot of women either can't take HRT because they have got some health conditions that mean that it's not suitable for them. So things like high blood pressure, a medical condition that might involve blood clotting, or a history of breast cancer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you've got a really good doctor, you can sometimes navigate your way through these things. But most of the time, doctors are very, very cautious when it comes to HRT. And I think rightly so.
Yeah.
And some of the side effects you can get are things like nausea and headaches and breakthrough bleeding, and it can actually cause anxiety when you're trying to deal with all the anxiety you've got going on already.
Yeah.
Because when you start introducing synthetic progesterone into the mix, it really can ramp up your anxiety levels as well.
Right.
So and you can get acne, breast tenderness, all this sort of stuff. So some women give it a go and then they think, oh no, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some herbs.
That's what everybody wants to know. They want to know, what can they take in order, because I have a lot of clients, and you probably do as well, that they may have tried HRT or they may have tried some sort of hormonal medication and it really hasn't suited them. So then they kind of feel a little bit out on a limb. What do I do now? And then I have other clients that are the other way around, and they want to try all the kind of complementary herbal stuff first before they embark on medical. So for all of those people, whatever your reason, so hit it with us and let us know what we can do, and maybe at what stages as well. So if somebody is experiencing hot flushes, for example, what would they take? What herb would be great for that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because people always ask me, what's the one herb I can take for menopause that's going to make everything better? And I really wish it was as simple as this. And actually, with hot flushes, it can be quite simple. But herbal medicine is actually a slightly complex intervention that takes into account every single woman as an individual.
Yes.
Because let's face it, you're not just going to be a menopausal woman. You're an individual and you've got all this other stuff going on in your life, and you've probably got some other health conditions as well. So, like a herbalist will take all that into account when they make up the herbal prescription for you.
Yeah.
But if you want to, self-medicate, which I totally am 100% supportive of, that women should have the knowledge and the information to go and try some of these herbs for themselves and see how they work. Then there are some really key herbs that we can focus on. Mm-hmm. But there's one thing I just want to say, which is that a lot of women go into, a high street health food shop and they look at all these herbs that are on the counter, and, there might be some menopause supplements, so they give them a go. But what's going on? And then they think, oh, this didn't work. What a load of rubbish,
Yeah.
But what's going on is that the herbs aren't strong enough in those,
in that format.
Yes. And also the quality is often not there. There's been so many studies done in of mainstream high street supplements, and the herbs that they say are in these supplements just aren't there. So there is actually a little logo you can look for, which is a THR logo that you can find on some supplements that are out there.
Okay.
Yeah, and that means traditional herbal registration.
Okay.
That's a really important thing just to let people know about, because
Yes.
that means it's really good quality, it's been tested, and it's gone through a registration process.
Right.
So THR, just everyone
Okay.
remember
And
that.
is that on, will you see that quite a lot, or is that very rare to see that on a supplement or herb in a mainstream health shop?
It's becoming more common, actually. You know, if you went into, for example, Holland and Barrett, you would find some supplements with that logo on it, THR.
Okay.
And it's just a really good sign that the product you're buying is actually good quality. So that's a
Yes.
good place to start.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Yeah, but so herbs, right? Okay, so yes, so sage is obviously a very famous one for hot flushes, and that does really work very well. It is a phytoestrogen, and you know, if you do have a lot of hot flushes and night sweats, a really good way of taking it is to make a pot of sage tea,
Yeah.
and let it cool down so that it's not hot and making you sweat,
Yeah.
and drink it, you know, and have it late at night before you go to bed if you've got a lot of night sweats going on. So that's a really good one.
Will that also help with sleep as well as
Not,
getting?
no, it won't, but it'll
Okay.
help with the hot flushes. But
Okay.
with sleep, I have this lovely sleep mix that I give to all my menopausal women, and they absolutely love it. It
Okay.
completely
What's
saves
in
their lives.
that?
So that's a mixture of valerian, which I'm sure everyone will have heard of, passion flower, which
Yeah.
I think is quite well known. It's a very beautiful plant.
Yeah.
But my little secret one is this great herb that's called skullcap. And it's got a slightly scary name, but it's just amazing. It's so calming and it's so wonderful for anxiety. And you could
What
actually...
is skullcap? What is it?
Oh, it's just this beautiful flowering plant. And the reason it's called skullcap is because the flower looks like the hoods that you put over the heads of falcons to
Oh,
calm them
wow.
down, to keep
Okay.
them calm. So it just looks like a little hood, like a little skull cap. So that's why
Right.
it's called that. Nothing scary.
And
But
so, and
it's,
that's the one that really helps with the sleep, is it?
oh, it's just good for anxiety more than anything, because a
Yeah.
lot of women can't get to sleep because their brains are just whirring around with,
Yes.
you know, just high anxiety levels.
Yeah.
And actually, you can drink skullcap tea all day long and it
Right.
won't make you drowsy.
Oh, really?
Oh
That's
my
a
God,
really good
it's
tip, because a
beautiful.
lot of people are suffering from anxiety with it. That's one of the main issues, I would say. That and sleep are the main issues that people come and see me about. So that's a really good tip.
Yeah. But you know what, Denise, the big one, you know, in the last episode, we talked a lot about stress and how
Yes.
stress really exacerbates your menopausal symptoms.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's really interesting. In a lot of the work I do, you know, I do work on hormone balance a lot
Yeah.
of the time, but
Yeah.
actually, so much of the work I do is around the adrenal system in the body, as I'm
Yes.
sure you do a lot
Yes.
of work around that as well.
Yeah.
So the key herbs for me are what we call adaptogens, which I'm sure
Yeah.
you're familiar with.
Yes.
And these are amazing herbs. They really are.
Is
And
ashwagandha in your toolbox?
yes.
Yes. That's one of my favorites, because it's I think, because what people find that they need is they don't want to be so calm that they can't function, because a lot of these people that are in this high stress, like you said earlier or in the previous episode, they're in really high powered jobs, they're high achievers, you know, they're doing a lot with their lives, so they don't want to be sort of so calm that they're horizontal. And that's, I mean, I'm sure you've got other herbs as well, but ashwagandha for me is one of the key herbs that will help them to be able to perform and continue, but keeps their cortisol levels lower.
Exactly. exactly. You
So
know,
what other herbs, as well as ashwagandha, which other ones would you say?
yeah, so adaptogens are amazing because, you know, as their name implies, they help the body adapt to stress.
Yeah.
So it helps our body um, manage the stress response in a much healthier way and protect our bodies from the effects of stress, which,
Yeah.
you know, causes huge amounts of inflammation in the body. So my other favorite ones are rhodiola. Have you heard of that one?
No, what's that?
Oh, it's just a beautiful, beautiful herb. Yeah, it's a root, actually, a golden root, and it sort of grows in high altitudes.
So is that a bit like maca then, or is that?
It's a little bit like maca, because maca is also a root and it also grows at high altitudes as well.
Yeah.
But rhodiola is just so wonderful. You know, it just boosts your memory, it gives you energy, it improves your mood. You know, you can take it as a capsule.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't endorse any products, but Viridian actually do a really beautiful rhodiola capsule.
Right.
That you know, I've given this to women, and you know, a couple of weeks later they'll just phone me up and
They're
just
like,
go,
woo!
yeah, what have you done to me? You know?
I love that kind of reaction. You know, I love it because it's so, when you just sort of, as I said earlier, these women you don't feel like yourself anymore. So having that
No.
reaction, suddenly feeling like you can be back out in the world. Because the other thing that some people have said to me is, Denise, lockdown has been bad for people who already felt like that. And
Yes.
then to be coming out of lockdown, but still feeling like they want to be very at home. Some people just want to be kind of alone. They don't feel like they can face anything. And that's a horrible place to be. So would a herb like that be good for that kind of person?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not going to stimulate you. It's not going to, you know, it's not like having caffeine or anything.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's actually an incredibly stabilizing herb.
Right.
But it also, you know, energizes you, and like you say, it can just really bring you back to, you know, oh God, this is what,
Yes.
you know, this is how I used to feel, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
So that's a really lovely one.
Yeah.
And also licorice is another one I really love. I only use it in very small doses,
Okay.
but that actually regulates cortisol production in the body. So
Okay.
that's a beautiful one. But you shouldn't take it if you've got high blood pressure. That's the only
Okay.
thing with licorice.
So with something like that, is it better, as you're saying, to make something up individually for a person when you know, or can they go and buy a licorice supplement with the ashwagandha or what was the other name?
Oh, rhodiola.
Rhodiola.
Yeah.
I need to remember that one. Or, you know, can they buy them all separately, or can
Yes,
they?
yeah, they can buy them all separately. You know, obviously, as I said earlier, you know, quality is really important.
Yes.
But yeah, they can buy ashwagandha capsules. You can buy ashwagandha powder. You can buy it as a tincture.
Yes.
You know, same for the rhodiola as well.
Yeah.
There probably are some combination supplements out there, but
Yes.
I'm not aware of them, but I'm
Yeah.
sure somebody's put them all together
Yes.
somewhere. But you
Yeah.
know, you shouldn't overdo it with the adaptogens. You know, you should
Okay.
really just take one at a
Okay.
time. Like, don't take ashwagandha and rhodiola at the same time.
Okay. So you
Yeah,
can't just chuck it all in and hope for the
no,
best.
not a good idea. That's the other thing people do, is they, you know, they feel terrible, so they go down the shop and just buy all this
Yes.
stuff,
Yeah.
and then they just don't know what's doing what, and
Yeah.
you know, is it making them feel worse or better?
Yeah.
And you know, it gets
Yeah.
very confusing. So I
Yeah.
would say try one thing at a time.
Yeah, and because one of the things that I find as well, which always sort of amuses me, and I don't mean that in a patronizing way at all, but I have a lot of clients who will come to me and they literally bring a carrier bag full of supplements, and I just normally wipe the whole slate clean and start
Yeah.
again, because you have to be careful, and I'm totally in agreement with you. If you're taking too much, the body just gets overwhelmed and confused, and then nothing really works. So it's better to strip it back. Less is more. The body, in my experience, the body is so sensitive, and the cleaner you eat as well. So if you want, from a dietary side, if you want to, you know, reduce your menopausal symptoms as much as you can with foods, then you've got to sort of go anti-inflammatory foods. You've got to really up your fruits and vegetables, mostly your vegetables, tons of greens, tons of broccoli, you know, sprout your seeds, broccoli seeds, radish seeds, all those kind of things. Because from my experience, if you can make your foundation good and you're building this strong blood, strong body, really functioning liver, you know, and reducing your cortisol by introducing lots more vegetables into your diet because it's higher in minerals, and that's going to help to reduce your cortisol levels. Then you add your herbs in, and the, you know, the results that you see from that. So it's almost like, you know, as you were saying, it's hard to know what's working and how it's working if the body is completely overrun with either a poor diet, high fat diet, lots of alcohol, all those kind of things. And often, you know, I think nature is amazing because a lot of women I see say, I just can't drink the way I used to. And actually I'm thinking this is great, because
Yes.
you don't want to be over drinking, because it is going to, you know, if you're already stressed, it's going to whack your cortisol levels out even more. And then you're going to feel dreadful the next day, and people can feel quite depressed. And then it becomes a vicious cycle, because when you drink, you feel a bit better momentarily, and then the next day you feel awful. But that night, you know, I've got women calling me saying, I've got heart palpitations in the night, I can't sleep,
Sweats.
I'm waking up at 4,
Yeah.
you know. And from a Chinese, I don't know sort of, you know, how deep you go into this, but from my naturopathic kind of training, I would look at the Chinese timelines as well. So 4 a.m. is very liver, isn't it? So the liver's trying to work, the liver's trying to cleanse. And if you're not helping your body, you've got to give your body what it needs in order to kind of get through this. And even with HRT, and I've seen women who've got really poor diets and they're using HRT, and then their symptoms or their side effects are so much worse. So if there's any time in your life that you want to look at your diet and your, you know, sort of what you're putting in the body, it's kind of, you know, when you start to hit perimenopause, I would say, because it really helps you to get through those, you know, sort of months or years sometimes of fluctuation.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, you've just brought up so many important points in what you've just said, you know, because diet is so crucial. And, you know, I totally get why for some women, they're just too busy. They can't deal with all of this. They just want to go on HRT and not think about any of it.
Yes.
But unfortunately, HRT is not addressing, you know, nutritional deficiencies, stress, lifestyle factors. And you've got to look at this stuff when you're hitting 50. You've really got to, you know, stop and reassess everything that's going on. And I'm so glad you mentioned the liver, because that is an absolute cornerstone of any treatment plan that I do for perimenopause or menopause. It's absolutely crucial, because your liver is so busy at this time of your life, especially in perimenopause when it's got all these estrogen surges going on, because your liver metabolizes estrogen and it helps to excrete it from the body. So if it's busy because you're drinking too much or eating too much sugar, then it's not going to be functioning properly. And so milk thistle is a really important herb in menopause, and also dandelion root is another one that I really give a lot of the time, especially where there's constipation as well, because you've got to have really good bowel function as well.
Yes, yeah. And it's funny because, so I use a bioenergetic tester, and any person who's going into perimenopause or is in the menopause, those two herbs always come up as a specific to treat them, because as you're saying, it's cleansing the liver. It's really, it just helps the body to function better, doesn't it? You know, and sort of clean the blood. And that will help anybody's sort of symptoms to calm down, in my experience, alongside, you know, your wonderful herbs.
Yes.
So what else, you know, if somebody was going to sort of try the herbs, they're going to clean up their diet a little bit, what else is kind of important, would you say?
Well, there's just actually one more herb I've already got
Oh,
to
really?
mention,
Okay,
which is a
yes.
bit of a
Tell us.
star of the show, which
Okay.
is also black cohosh, which
Ah,
everyone has heard of.
yes.
And it's just, I would say this is in 90% of my menopause prescriptions,
Okay.
because it does really help with night sweats, anxiety, libido, joint pain. It's really good for joint pain as well.
Right.
So that's and that's a really popular one that you see out there,
Yeah.
in the shops. So yeah, I'm a big fan of black cohosh. So I just
What?
wanted to say that.
No, that's amazing. And that is something that most people will be familiar with. I want to come back to that as well.
Yeah.
But what is the joint pain all about? What causes that?
Yeah, well, I think in episode 1 we were talking about the role of estrogen in our bodies, and we have estrogen receptors in our muscles and our joints. So as your estrogen levels start to fall, your body starts reacting, and I get women saying, I feel so stiff and I feel really old, and I'm really dragging myself around, and black cohosh can really help with that, as can other phytoestrogens like red clover, soy, and also omega-3 is really useful as well. Your essential fatty acids.
Yeah. So what is the black cohosh then? Explain to us what it is and how, how it's function. How was it even discovered that could help?
Well, it's actually a Native American herb that was discovered when the colonial settlers went to America and learned to survive, basically, by learning from the indigenous population. And it was widely used for women's problems, and it's been a really popular plant ever since that time, ever since the 1800s, 1700s. So yeah, it's a really wonderful, beautiful plant, actually. But a lot of people were worried about it for a while because they thought it was a phytoestrogen, because they were worried about using it if you've had breast cancer. But it's actually not a phytoestrogen, and it actually works on neurotransmitters in our brain, which is why it's really good for hot flushes.
Okay. And so does it also help with the brain fog and things like that as well?
Yes. It's a really good, I'd say that's definitely in my top 5.
Okay. And what sort of dosage then, if somebody was to go and buy it as maybe a tincture from a health shop, what sort of dosage would they be having?
Yeah, so I usually give it quite a strong dose, depending on your symptoms. And I usually give people about 15 mils a week, which probably doesn't sound like very much, but when, the tinctures I use are quite strong. It's quite good to get that kind of dosage level up. But there'll be supplements out there that'll have the dosage on the instruction.
I guess it depends on the individual strength. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, they sound like amazing herbs, and it's just good for people to have this knowledge so that they can maybe go and experiment with a few. Are there any side effects from the herbs, or will it say that if they go and buy them from a health shop, will it say?
Yeah, we'll say that. I mean, just one herb to be aware of, obviously, is St. John's wort, which is a really great herb to use in menopause, actually, because it not only helps with mood and anxiety, but it also helps with hot flushes.
Right. Okay.
So, but that's just one to be aware of, because you shouldn't take that if you're on any other prescription medication.
Okay. Is it because of the liver toxicity, or?
It's because, well, for 2 reasons. If you're taking antidepressants, it can intensify the effects of the antidepressants, which is not something you want. But if you're not taking antidepressants, then the other reason to not take it with prescription medication is because it just clears drugs out of your system through the liver quite quickly.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get that.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good point. So just on our last little point
Yes.
of, what else should people do? What else can people do to help themselves? In with your clients, what do you see? What would you suggest to somebody who's gone away with some herbs? And then what else would you say for them to do?
Well, Denise, I'm sure this is one thing that you tell people to do all the time, but really, really big thing is to keep your blood sugar stable and, not eat too much sugar, really reduce the amount of sugar you're taking, but also white processed carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Get them out of your diet. Swap the white rice for the brown rice, swap the white pasta for the brown pasta. You want the slow release carbs. You want to keep everything nice and stable in your blood sugar.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's something that you
Oh
often
yeah.
tell
I mean,
people. Yeah.
I sort of treat menopausal ladies as if they've got something like polycystic ovaries, or it's the same kind of treatment, in the fact that one of the key elements is to keep your blood sugar level really balanced. Lots of beans, lots of legumes, having quinoa instead of your rice. Well, I mean, brown rice is good, brown rice is okay, but I would sort of swap the pastas, even the brown pastas, for the quinoas, the buckwheat, things like that. It's just much more stabilizing for the blood. And if you've got, I always say to everybody, just eating well is all about being organized. And if you can make the biggest quinoa salad with lime juice and sort of have lots of parsley in there and basil and things like that, because you want your high levels of minerals, so the calcium, magnesium, all those kind of things in your green leafies, loads of broccoli. You can flavor it with Himalayan salt, chili flakes, olive oil. You don't have to be buying shop bought dressings and things that, if you look at the ingredients on some things, which you might think, right, I've got this huge bowl of salad and now I'm going to pour this dressing on it, and it might be laden with sugar. So, just be really careful what you're buying, and just be aware. There's loads of things on my website, loads of recipes on my social media, and you can find them anywhere now. But, just to be putting everything that goes in your body, make it from scratch if you can, because sometimes it's not that time consuming or that difficult. You only need a few ingredients, and once you do it a few times, I think people then realize, gosh, this tastes better. I feel great. And you can stick this massive quinoa salad in your fridge, put a lid on it, take it out for 3 or 4 days, and it still tastes amazing. So there's lots of things you can do, but definitely keeping your blood sugar levels balanced, and then also getting outside.
Exercising.
And we had a chat actually before the Zoom call, and I was just saying that this time of year I don't even, and I'm not saying don't go to the gym, but whatever you love to do, I prefer personally to be outside, paddleboarding, running, cycling, whatever, but being in fresh air, because and probably you, Melinda, I sit at my laptop for quite a few hours in a day, writing health reports, doing scans, etc. So my, now more than ever, coming into my 50s, I'm really aware that I feel so much better if I have 2 hours at lunchtime outside, doing something, or that's my morning, that's how I start my day, and that's my evening as well. Utilize the long summer days. We're so lucky right now, it's 10 o'clock before it's dark. There's just so much you can do, but it's not just about keeping in physical shape. This is about your mental well-being, because it helps when you exercise, it helps to reduce your cortisol levels and helps to increase your endorphins, so you automatically feel better. But exercise is like sugar. The more you do, the more you want to do. The more sugar you eat, the more you want to eat. You just to be aware, and it is a bit of a mind game in the beginning, that you just kind of, but once you get in your pattern, once you replace the sugary foods with the good foods, the good greens, the good grains, then you're going to start feeling better. Then you've got more energy to then exercise. So it's a bit like a chicken and egg situation. But then to add, the amazing herbs that you talked about today into the mix. So if anybody's feeling fatigued, because one of the things in menopause that people have said, I'm too exhausted to exercise.
Yes.
So using the herbs that you've suggested, Melinda,
Yes.
and bringing that into your regime,
Yes.
and
And
then
sleeping better and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
then you're going to get your energy back, and then you can sort of go on and hopefully have the motivation and the focus to do the things that are going to do you good rather than harm. Because when you're feeling on the floor and you're exhausted, it's so easy to reach for the coffee.
Oh yeah, and the sugar and the chocolate. Yeah. And the wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just knowing what you can do and the things that can help, hopefully we've been able to answer some of those questions today.
Yeah, self-care is just so crucial to all of this, and I think women often put themselves last.
Yes.
And so this is what I mean about it all being a bit of a reboot, because this is the time of your life when you get to put yourself first for a change.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. And we all should be proud of doing that. It's not a selfish thing.
Yeah.
It's something that we need to do
Yeah.
in order to enjoy our lives. And if we're happier, everybody around us is happier too. So
yeah.
Melinda, thank you so much. I've really appreciated it. I've learned some stuff today, which has been brilliant. And I look forward to episode 3. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Denise.